Howdy, howdy, fellow football fans, and welcome back for another edition of the Far Out Football Podcast, brought to you by PTE Creative. As always, I'm your host, Evan Davies. Now, on this special Thanksgiving Day edition of the show, we're going to have a few, very, very few, things that we're thankful for as part of this NFL season and our game picks for this week. Now, I've already given some descriptions for the Thanksgiving and Black Friday games, so I'm just going to give you the winners on those. Then we're going to give a little bit more analysis into those other games here as part of this Week 13 wonderful week of the NFL. And I once again will be in Lambeau. It'll be the final time I'll be in Lambeau, calendar year of 2024. Let's hope get some playoff appearances in Lambeau so I can give you a little bit more. Certainly fun to be there. Last week, as the Packers trounced the 49ers, and all sympathies go out to our good friend Minraj Dacey, who was there with me and saw his 49ers just not have it. That is A-okay, because sometimes that just happens. The Packers have that, the Eagles have had that, the 49ers have had that, Dallas has certainly everyone has that from time to time. It's part of life as a football fan. You just gotta understand it. Here we are. Let's get to some game picks. So, last week we went 6-7. It's probably the worst week I've had all year. We still have an overall record though of 114-63. So, hell of a good time. And before anyone goes off crazy, look at the picks that we got wrong. Pittsburgh at Cleveland in the snow game. Pittsburgh was a decent favorite. They lost. I went with the upset of Chicago. That one, okay, you could say not great. Then here we have the other one. Washington, that was favored by almost 11, lost to Dallas. Ridiculous. Picked Arizona in the toss-up game. Seattle ended up pulling that one out. Picked the Rams in what I thought could be a toss-up game and a home game. They didn't pull it through. Reasonable. Picked the Chargers. They were upswing. Okay, reasonable. But the biggest one here, Houston, favored by 8, and they lost to Tennessee. Just sadness all over the place. So that really, really screwed me. A lot of those toss-up games I just picked wrong. Fortunately, it's the first losing week I had, but overall, nonetheless, 114-63. I'm happy with that record. Cleaned it up this week. So we have, as I stated, the 4 games that, if you want to get a little bit more analysis on those, go check out the Thanksgiving, what we're thankful for episode of the ONETA Show, which aired on Tuesday. Check that out. So, for our first game on the Thanksgiving slate, Chicago at Detroit. Detroit is favored by 10.5. I took Detroit. Then we have the Giants going to Dallas for the afternoon game. Dallas is favored by 4. I did take Dallas, even though I don't like it. Then, Thanksgiving night, like I said, it's at Lambeau Field, Miami, going to Green Bay, and Green Bay is favored by 3. I took the Packers. And finally, the Vegas Raiders are going over to Kansas City for the Black Friday game. Currently, Kansas City is favored by 12.5. I picked them at 13. No matter what, I was taking Kansas City in the win. I don't like that point spread, though, because it's big. Now, to our game picks otherwise for this week. We have the Chargers favored by 2 going to Atlanta. The loss of J.K. Dobbins is a big one. I'm not super thrilled about that, as so much of their offense has been predicated upon the run game. However, I will still take the Chargers here. Atlanta just hasn't gotten it together and has not shown the cohesiveness they need to really pull out to be a playoff team whatsoever. We have Pittsburgh going to Cincinnati. Cincinnati is favored by 2.5. I think this is more of a reflection of just the people that jumped on the Russell Wilson bandwagon, being like, oh, Pittsburgh's perfect now. Maybe they're a Super Bowl. Coming back down to earth, and now they're boomeranging too far. I still think Pittsburgh is way too competitive to think that, Cincinnati should be favored when their defense can't stop it. However, Pittsburgh hasn't really gone up against an offensive juggernaut like the duo of Burrow and Chase. I'm going to take Cincinnati. Don't like it because I don't believe in Cincinnati, but Pittsburgh is kind of ripe for come down, as Cleveland was the start, and I don't think that snow game was inherently a fluke, because the Pittsburgh Steelers, the way they play, should be favored in a snow game. They didn't come out on top. And you can say, oh, Jameis Winston was on fire. Jameis Winston also gave up a few plays where you'd be like, oh, it wasn't great. But they pulled it out in the end, and Pittsburgh didn't take advantage. Houston, favored by 4.5 going to Jacksonville. I do not like Houston right now. A lot of problems. You're seeing CJ Stroud in somewhat of a sophomore slump. If you witnessed any of or listened to any of our content preseason, I was excited about CJ Stroud. I thought he was going to make another leap, but I didn't think he was God's gift to the quarterback position like some were making him out. And he started off really hot this year, and everyone just went, top 5 quarterback, one of the best. And it wasn't there. I really like CJ Stroud and what he's done, but he's struggling a lot with blitz pickups and things of that nature. The things that are going to evolve as you come from a one player to a year 2 and then player. You need to be able to pick up those experiences. However, Jacksonville, it seems like a shoulder sprain or a shoulder issue is going through, or a collarbone issue of some kind is going through Trevor Lawrence. I still don't trust Jacksonville whatsoever. And no, Houston gives me a little bit of the ick right now as a better. I will be taking Houston because show policy stands. I don't pick the Jacksonville Jaguars. I won't do it. Arizona's going to Minnesota. Minnesota's favored by 3.5 on Sunday. I really want to pick the Cardinals. I would like to think the Seattle is a little bit of an aberration. And Minnesota, they played Chicago kind of wonky, but yet good. It was a weird game, and they needed that last minute field goal to take the win. I'm gonna take Minnesota. I don't feel good about it, but Minnesota has just consistently put up big time performances to keep them alive. Is this the week that Sam Darnold finally crashes as he's been returning to the mean, and then he has these few spike games, kind of like last week? I don't know. I truly do believe Kyler Murray, and for the NFC West race, it's really good if they get another win, just so then they can stay in more in that driver's seat. But I really don't know right now, so I'm going to go Minnesota. Then we have the Indianapolis Colts favored by 3, and they're going to New England. This is easy. We're taking the Colts. Uh, I don't think this is. I shouldn't have said easy. As soon as I said it, I went, I might regret that statement. The Colts are playing better with Anthony Richardson, a little bit more to them, a little bit more personality. But the Patriots are playing better than people think. I still just think they're not super talented, hence the reason that we're going to get these times where you're like, oh yeah, the young quarterback did something, but they lost by another 15 points or 20 points. Well, yeah, that's going to happen. You have a young quarterback and things aren't working out for you. You don't have the talent around him. However, I still am going to take Indianapolis. I think just the sum of their parts is going to overwhelm New England's defense and take them. We have Seattle favored by 1.5 going to the Jets. It's now becoming a show policy almost at this point that I won't pick the Jets. I'm picking Seattle. Jets are in free fall. I'm not saying the Jets couldn't take this game, as it's a 1.5 point game. It's not illogical to think that the Jets could take this. There's a reason it's such a close betting mark. However, I do not trust the Jets whatsoever. They're a team incomplete. Now, it's come out that the owner thought about trying to bench Aaron Rodgers, or suggested it at least. And there's all the reports that maybe they may, who knows? Maybe they even want to shut Aaron down for this season so that they don't have to pay him, or they cut him, or do all these different things. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but I think this is clearly the cleaning of the house that the Jets want to try to go a new route in their future. And I don't know if it's going to work out for them, but there's bad juju on the Jets. I'm taking Seattle. At least they're a little bit on the come up. 2-game win streak here. I get it. We got Tennessee going to Washington. Washington is favored by 6. Now, I know Tennessee caught Houston last week, but I'm going to be taking Washington. Washington showed they can still put up big scores quickly with some Jaden Daniels runs, that obvious long pass. If it's not for a missed extra point, that game's completely different. I'm not saying they win, but it's a completely different result than just within 90 seconds we have two kickoff return for touchdowns and an 80-yard pass play and all chaos out of a game that was seemingly boring. I remember going into Lambeau and in the back seat's been Raj. My wife and my other friend are with us. Our good friend Angie, who's constantly on the ONETA Show with me. Four of us are driving up to Lambeau, and everyone's just kind of talking, and I'm just kind of sitting quietly. I yelled to the back seat, "Hey, Minraj, can you get me a scoring update on the games?" And he's like, 10-9 Dallas. I was like, 10-9? Like, what a boring ass game. And as we're walking into Lambeau, just like, what's going on? And the score just jumped like crazy. And on the big board, we're just like, they're showing the scores from previous games, and it's 34-26. And we're like, what the fuck happened? Just what a wild ass game. However, with all that, I still think, although he still might be nursing an injury, Shane Daniels can still play pretty well right now. Tennessee is not good. They're just not. And it wouldn't be in their favor to be good anyways. They should get a higher pick. That's what they should want right now. So they're clearly out of the race and not going to win. I know Tennessee's playing a little bit better. Will Levis is not making complete bonehead decisions anymore, but he's still not. So that's why I'm taking Washington. We go Tampa Bay favored by 6 going to Carolina. Carolina's playing for real right now. Bryce Young is confident in the last couple games. I know getting to just competency at the quarterback level is not the greatest achievement in the world, but when your quarterback is playing so scared like a high school kid against pros that it was just 0.5 seconds to get the ball out as fast as possible to a check down, and he's taking downfield shots, showing more of that accuracy and that timing I really liked about him in the scouting process. I think this is a more competitive game than a -6 game. I'll still take Tampa because Tampa's just far more talented and they're cruising towards NFC South victory, towards playoff spot, and they'll be a fun playoff team. But don't be shocked if Carolina makes this a real game. I wouldn't even be shocked if Carolina steals this game. You never know. They're getting better. And I could use a performance from Jonathan Brooks on my fantasy team. Please. Then we're going Rams favored by 2.5 in New Orleans. Now, I'm seeing a huge. When I was doing all the research for the betting lines, I was seeing a bunch of models saying, pick New Orleans, pick New Orleans. Fuck that. You don't pick the Saints unless you absolutely have to. That's stupid. I'm picking the Rams here. I don't care if it's a Saints home game. The Rams just lost a heartbreaker against Philly when they thought they were getting better, and then they kind of just got beat to hell by Saquon Barkley. I do not care. Do not care. I do not trust the Saints whatsoever. I do not trust Derek Carr. I do not trust their defense. I don't trust their offensive line to protect them from the defensive line of the Rams. Absolutely. And the hell, they traded one of their best players away a couple weeks ago, Marshawn Lattimore. Who the hell is going to cover Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, anybody else on that Rams team? Don't think so. We got Philly going to Baltimore. Baltimore is favored by 3, and I think that is fair. I'm going to be taking Baltimore. Now, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be swept up in the madness of Philly, and unlike many times where I even know I can be biased and say, no, 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 no. Philly deserves a lot of praise right now. Saquon Barkley specifically deserves a lot of praise right now. It pains me to say that, but they're playing good complementary football. Defense is getting really hard nosed, stopping the attacks of other teams. Saquon Barkley is rushing the hell out of the ball. The running game, I should say, is becoming focus. And then Jalen Hurts is allowed to pass downfield, use his playmakers when the time is necessary for it to mix it up. But that's a Saquon Barkley first. However, I just think Baltimore's got this moxie about them where the Chargers, that was a perfect trap game where team on the rise, getting some confidence. Oh, Harbaugh Bowl 2, all this kind of stuff. Great. They just went, no, we're going to take care of our business. We're going to kick the shit out of the Chargers. And that's what they did. That's what Baltimore does. Their defense still really suspect. They're getting a little bit better each week, but still not perfect. However, I still think they can take Philly because the way Philly's playing, especially through the run game, is they're scoring big time points. No one can take that away from them. But I will say, just a quick analysis here. They played Rams last week and played Washington. Two teams that have spotty defenses, in my opinion. The Rams are getting better, but spotty once again. Baltimore, spotty defense, but both those teams didn't have what Baltimore has, which is the consistency on the offense to put up big time points. Washington had that until Jaden Daniels got hurt. It's kind of up and down. And you saw that even in the last game, where it was very slow and then really quick. They got some plays. I'm just going to take Baltimore here. I think Lamar Jackson's going to kind of build this one with Derrick Henry. This is a fun bully game in which who's going to out-bully the other. I think that's a really fun dynamic, though. I'll take Baltimore. Then we have Sunday night. San Francisco is going to Buffalo. Buffalo is favored by 7. Uh, Play the funeral music, man. It's funeral procession time. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun. I watched the depleted San Francisco 49ers last. That was a team that's just not cohesive right now. They're injured. I don't know the status of Brock Purdy yet for this game. Who knows? Don't know the status of Nick Bosa. He's always kind of week in, week out with injuries. Who knows what's going to happen with his injuries? I'm not sure about Trent Williams. Christian McCaffrey really didn't get it going. Even the chances that he did get last week, it didn't go well for him. Or the one big run he sprung, fumbled the ball. I know that's not going to happen every time, but the 49ers are showing their doggedness, their age, in terms of the war of attrition that they're finally going through all these past couple years. Finally hit. It's truly what's happening to San Francisco in the time of the San Francisco 49ers as we knew them. In terms of the Kittle, Debo, Bosa, Fred Warner, that ilk that went to 2 Super Bowls, it's over for them. Use check those guys, it's over. Now, I'm sure as hell not going to write off Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch and thinking that they're not going to, replenish this team with young talent because they've already started to do it with guys like Juwan Jennings and Bunga. But no, they're going to come back. But in terms of this iteration of the 49ers, what we've seen for the last 5 years, dominant football, it's over. And we're seeing it right now. Buffalo's playing way too well. Josh Allen is feeling himself. Right now, he's the odds-on favorite for MVP by most people's opinion. I can understand that full-heartedly. I go Buffalo, and the points, I might even take the points, which is crazy against the San Francisco team. Nonetheless. And finally, we have Monday Night Football. Cleveland is going to Denver. Denver's favored by 5. I think last week was an aberration. I love snow games because that is what happens in snow games. Funny, weird, crazy, exciting, fun stuff happens in the snow, especially in those eastern snowstorms where they come out of nowhere. That lake effect snow. It's a whole heck of a lot of fun. Well, I know Cleveland's probably feeling themselves right now. They got Nick Chubb going a little bit more. Jameis Winston. He's all-time preacher Jameis Winston. Great. But at the same time, this is a Denver team that's really getting itself together. I still don't believe in Bo Nix. I still think this is an aberration, but he's proving me wrong every week. So eventually, I'm going to have to just give up the fight and say, okay, maybe Bo Nix is actually a good quarterback. I still don't think he's there yet, but he's playing better. Their defense is really coming alive, and that's not going to bode well for a Denver team or for a Cleveland team, I should say, that is so wishy-washy and inconsistent and has an inconsistent quarterback. Need anyone be reminded of the 30-plus interception year that Jameis Winston had when he was a full-time starter down in Tampa? It's up and down with Jameis. I think that's going to happen again, and that's why I'll be taking Denver in the game. That is our game picks for this week. And before we transition to the end of the show, I will say a couple things to be thankful for in a football-specific way. So I'll start here for this special Thanksgiving episode of the show. Number one thing to be thankful for this year of football, I want to say the competition level has risen to a point in which a lot of teams have come out of the ashes. To see the Detroit Lions, beyond all the divisional rivalries and all that kind of stuff, we're being proven wrong a lot of the times as pundits or as analysts or even just amateur podcasters. Teams that you thought may be going by the wayside are coming out of nowhere, like Minnesota, play really well. Detroit, super. Philly rising up. These teams that are being proven right in their philosophy and proving everybody wrong. It's good for football. Especially a team like Detroit. Built, tough, hard nosed, takes on the personality of its city. Really fun attack with some style and pizzazz. But at the end of the day, they're just a nail biting team that's going to destroy people, which is fun and good for the game. So it's really fun to see those teams kind of come up and really embody part of the toughness of the sport, which is great. So that is number one thing to be for. We're seeing teams rise up that we haven't seen rise up before, or rise up in a different way than we've seen them before. That's great. Two, as much as I love Patrick Mahomes, and I am the most ardent supporter of Patrick Mahomes for the most part, as I think he's the greatest quarterback to ever play the position. It is fun to see the rise of other quarterbacks. It's fun to see. This is how I felt with. I look back at the late 90s, after the heyday of Steve Young, the end of Troy Aikman's era, before Peyton Manning became Peyton Manning. It kind of feels like if you go back in history, you look at some of those teams around, it feels a lot like what was Brett Favre and everybody else. There's eras of football like that, and there's John Elway in his twilight years, but it really felt like it was Brett and everybody else. The last couple of years, it's starting to feel like, well, there's Pat and then there's everybody else. And this year, you're saying Pat is not the kingmaker. Now, I still think he can easily do that. And especially when he's calling for his team to blow out a team, I'm certainly thinking capable of doing so. But because he's not making the mistakes that everyone thinks he's still making from week 2. But it's fun to see the rise of really the upper echelon coming to go say, no, we're going to compete, be the best in the world. And Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, as much as I think it's overblown, still playing pretty damn well. Jaden Daniels, CJ Stroud, even though he's doing not great, he's still coming up in the world and getting better. Jordan Love's in the same place. We're seeing more rookie quarterbacks do the same. Hell, Drake May's even playing pretty damn. Justin Herbert rising his game up. Kyler Murray, Geno Smith having a hell of a year. Matthew Stafford, regardless of the Rams, he's playing really damn well. The quarterback play quietly has been elevating a lot. So that's awesome, and I'm very thankful for that in the end of the season. Finally, I am just so thankful. Got a goddamn snow game already. Snow games are the greatest thing of all time. I love weather games. I love snow games. Anyone who wants to say, I want a dome over everything, I want the greatest equal playing field of all time, that's stupid and you're wrong and it violates the spirit of the sport. That's dumb. Don't have that opinion. Weather games, specifically snow games, chef's fucking kiss. They're glorious. I'm glad we already got one. Thankful for that. And I'm thankful to all of you for listening and watching, and I hope you enjoy the special Thanksgiving episode preview, if you will, of the show. Peace, love, and hugs to you all. Go celebrate the day however you can, and if you are part of this international audience, which I know we have, find something to be thankful for, just like all of us in the U.S. trying to find something to be. Love yourself, because if no one else can, you can. Love yourself. Be thankful for something. Peace, love, and hugs to you all. Come on!